Hello, welcome. I'm Lazy Noof, and we're going to do a from zero to hero modding for space engineers tutorial. So there are other videos on it. I do feel like they're missing like a little bit here and there. So we're going to go through the entire process from start to finish. So we're going to make a basic block. We're going to show you how to assign materials, unwrap it, do the LOD'S, get it into the mod SDK, and do all the things we need to do, basically until we're pretty much up to the point of hitting publish. So for this, I'm going to assume that you've already downloaded the mod SDK and the add-on for Blender. You don't need the key material assets library for Blender. That's not needed for this one. So we're going to start off by opening a new file in Blender and deleting the Blender cube, and might as well delete those as well. We're then going to do Shift A and create ourselves another cube. We then press the N key, and we can bring up our side menu here, and you'll see we've got our V-Raise tools here, which might as well open up while we're here for use later. So if you go to back to our item, you'll see it's 2 meters by 2 meters by 2 meters. You can also change it down here as well. It doesn't really matter. It's both exactly the same. We're just going to change it to 2.5. It's 2.5. And yes, I could have done that easier if I'd have just done it there. It doesn't really matter. We're then going to use Control and A to clear all transforms. That changes that scale to back to 1. So we've kind of reset everything, and this becomes what it is. Should always do that. It will help you, especially when you try and bevel things. We're going to select all of the edges. So we're in mode 2 with our X-ray on. So we select every single face, and we're going to bevel with Control and B. We're going to drag it out a bit, and we're just going to roll our mouse button forward to get some extra geometry on there. We're going to go something like that, a nice wide cube there. We're then going to right click and auto smooth just to smooth out those edges there. We are then going to let's select this face. So we'll go to 3, select the face, turn that off. Let's shrink the face a little bit and bring it in. No, actually, no. Let's extrude it actually instead, and then bring it in. Bring it in a little bit, and then extrude it, and take it in a little bit more, so we have kind of like a box thing there. Then let's Shift and A. Let's get ourselves a cylinder. Vertices. Let's do 12. Let's do 12. Bring that out so we can look at it. Go into face mode, delete the 2 end caps, X faces. Scale this down. Let's go to our X view so we can kind of see what's going on here. Scale this sort of like this, so we can tell the size we want, so something like that. We kind of want to yeet that there, something like that, and then we want to duplicate it with Shift and D and move it across with Y, something like that, and then just Shift and R, and then we'll select all of these, we'll just center it, G, Y, something like that. And then we want to go, tell you what, we'll just join those together now, why not? We'll then go to our face select mode, and we will put our X-ray on so we can see through and select everything. Select the back half of the faces, press X to delete the faces, so we're left with a bunch of half things there, which will then G and X into place so we can kind of see that. Turn X-ray off, and shade auto smooth on those. Just shade smooth actually. Okay, so we have pipes in there now, or something resembling pipes. Fantastic. let's get a bit more. So let's make something to like block it off. So we're gonna Shift A again, make ourselves a plane. That plane's almost the right size. In fact, that might be the right size. Let's rotate this round it 90 degrees around the y-axis and bring it out with X. So you can see that's the right size there, isn't it? What we need to do though is make sure, because it's plane, we're not sure which way the normal is facing. If we go to here, just do face orientation, and I got it right, so fantastic. So we'll bring this out a little bit so we can work on it. We'll just undo face orientation there. So for this, I'm going to go to modifiers. I'm going to add a generate wireframe. I'm going to go back to tab so I can see the plane as well, because wireframe only works based on edges, and we only have 4 edges at the moment. So see, it kind of makes this cool frame. But we're going to do Control and R, and we're just going to do however many you feel, basically. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'll do 5 this way as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then back to there, we'll see that we now have a grid. I'm then going to go into X-ray mode. I'm going to press tab. No, I'm not. I'm going to apply our wireframe and then press tab. Press 3 to select faces again. I'm just going to select all the outside faces. And I'm going to delete them. And then we've got our grate there, and we're just going to pop it into position. And as you can see, it just clips through the geometry on all sides. So it's just about the right size there. And you can kind of position that where you want, whether you want it at the front or just in front of the pipes or anywhere in between. There we go. Let's add some more stuff. So let's do like for let's do 4. Let's do 4 edge loops, and then select 2 of them, S, X, and bring these together. And S and X, and bring those together. Don't have to be mega identical. We then want to go to here. We like some more edge loops. 4. Well, we need to get the things up. Let's try that. Okay. So then we're going to go into face mode. We're going to grab. Let's grab some. Let's move these like this. Do the same here. Doesn't have to be identical or anything. We're just doing this really roughly so we have some kind of interesting shape to work with. Let's kind of move this like that. Let's go to here. Let's want it different than the other one, don't we? So let's go like 1, 2. No, let's do the middle. There we go. So there you go, something like that. So we got an interesting pattern there anyway. Let's go into 3 and select this with Alt and Shift. I'll select our two edge loops there. Not edge loops. We're then going to do Alt and E, and we're just going to extrude along normals and kind of bring those in a little bit. Let's do it quite deep. There we go. Let's see, that's the thinnest point. So then next thing we're going to do is go into 2 and select the edges. And then we're going to do Control and B to bevel. And it's kind of defined by this point because it's the narrowest point. So if we go any further, it'll just kind of do that. So let's see. Or curved. Do it curved, because if I do it like that, it kind of looks cool then. Okay, so we have some random detail in there now as well. And then we've got this side. What should we do on this side? Excuse me. If I do 3. So it's square related. What are we thinking? Extrude that in. I'm going to do something like that. And we've got detail basically on all sides there. Let's just bevel this off here, not forgetting these two sides. Just have that a nice flat one. Yeah, something like that. Okay, why not? Right. We have whatever that is. And we're basically ready to move on to the next step. So we have our item there. Anyway, excuse me. What we need to do now is basically assign materials to things. Let's do that. Okay. So what we're going to do is assign a bunch of materials to things. Don't know why I even bother screwing it. We're going to have to do that again anyway. And then we're going to use this later when we import into the mod SDK. We're going to apply different materials to it. There's a bunch of different ways you can do this. You can just make textures. You can use programs like Substance. But for the sake of this, we're going to use everything that's available to us inside the mod SDK. We're not really going to do anything fancy. So we're going to start off with our plane here that we made into a grate. So we're going to go to our materials tab here. We're going to hit new. It's going to just take a minute in order to generate us that material. And we're just going to call this a grate. like that, and let's color this blue. And the colors here, they're not the actual color because we're going to be assigning materials to these slots. And it's just so that you can keep track of it in Blender with the viewport shading method there, so you know what you've colored and what you haven't. So they're great. So next we select the pipes, and let's make ourselves a new material for our pipes. We'll just call it pipes. And let's make that like a yellow or something like that. Next is our cube. So let's grab the cube and we'll make it new. Let's do body. This is going to be like the main body of our cube. Excuse me. We're then going to add two more. So we're then going to do a new one here. We're going to call it trench. For our trench is going all the way through, so we'll color the middle differently and give it like a bit of an accent. So we're just going to 3, and we'll just with Alt and Shift grab both of those, and then we need to hit assign, and let's make it pink or purple. And then the only other thing to really do is this thing here. And in fact, I'm gonna put those back a bit after all, just not as much, something like that. And all we need to do there is, will it let us do it like that? Yes, it will. Pop, 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 and pop. And then let's go to here, and this is going to be called let's call it a bow because it kind of looks like a bow tie. That can be colored black. And that didn't assign because I didn't press assign, so I'll just undo till it gets selected, assign that, and then hit black. And there we go, it now changes black. So we've got our materials assigned to that now. So we'll call this cube finished. So that's all the modeling we're going to do in regards to actually making the block. What we've got left to do now is to select everything in object mode. So you've got your cube, your cylinder, and your plane selected, and just Control J to join them into one item. So that's all one item now. We've kept our colors that we've applied there, and it all looks pretty cool. So next thing we need to do is we need to unwrap this. So there's a bunch of different ways to do it, and you can like manually do it and spend ages getting everything neat and pretty and how you want it. For the purposes of this, we're just going to do it really simply and quickly. We're going to hit on UV editing so it opens this up. We're going to go into our X-ray mode so we can select every single face, and you'll see it'll look something like this. We're just going to go to UV, unwrap, Smart UV project, and just hit unwrap. And that's going to be good enough for most of your simple things. But obviously there's a lot more you can do with UV unwrapping, but though that deserves going and looking at a dedicated tutorial for UV mapping. For all intents and purposes, for most of the things you're going to do, it's just fine to do that. So we've unwrapped our model. We can now get rid of that and go back to our modeling layout. Now we need to figure out how many LODs we need to do, and so for that we need to find out how many triangles this thing is, and we can go to here and go down to our statistics, and it will tell us that this cube has 3,632 triangles, which is not a bad number. It should let us show you a decent amount of LODs. Now to find out exactly how many LODs we need to go into the mod SDK. So we'll load it up here. Let me just get rid of that. It's an old project I had open. What you're going to see is basically this, and you just click add mod to add a mod, and we'll just call this cube, and that will create that. And then we just hit start editor, and it will load up. Normally the model calculator is on the right. If you don't have that right at the start, I will show you how to get it. You best just go to Windows, go down to model calculator. I'll just give this a minute to load up. Drink while that's doing that. Okay, here we go. So here we see the model calculator there. If you don't have it there, just go to Window, and it's right there halfway down. And you might have to go from the Inspector tab over to the model calculator. So it's the same size as what I had there, except the triangles. Let's see. So 3632. 3632, although it won't really change anything on this. We still need 3 LODs. So this is our base model. We're under 7,000. We then need an LOD1 of 3,000, an LOD2 of 400, and an LOD3 of 32. This is pretty simple. It's going to take us a couple of minutes. So let's minimize that. I'll minimize that. Get Blender back. Oh, come on. There we go. And let's get to it. So first thing we're going to do is duplicate our cube. So we're going to duplicate it, and we're going to duplicate it again. And then we're going to call cube 001. We're going to call this cube LOD1. And then with 002, we're going to call it LOD2. LOD2. If I could type, that would be fantastic. LOD2. Okay, we're not going to do an LOD3 yet. There is a reason for that. I will get to it. So we're going to hide our original cube, and we're going to hide the LOD2. So we just got our LOD1 cube there, and we're going to select it. So our LOD1 cube, we need to get down to 3,000. Now we're not that far off, 3,600. So what we're going to do is go to our modifiers. We're going to go add modifier, generate, and then decimate. And what this does is this just uses an algorithm to basically destroy our model, to take away things like bevels and bits of geometry, and eventually it'll get to what you want. So we keep an eye on our triangles, and we just drag this ratio down, and you'll see that it'd help if I had it selected. And you'll see bits of weird things happening with our model there. Oh, too far. There you go, 296, that'll do. So we then just apply that. Now when we press tab, you'll see that our geometry has gone a little bit condensed in places, shall we say. But that now meets the requirements for our LOD1. So we can get rid of that and get our LOD2 cube down. Now our LOD2 cube we need 400 for. Now if we try and decimate this, what's going to happen is, if I just drag this down to 400, you see it really starts deforming. Oh, 400. So it's basically going to look like this, which is not good to say the least. So we're going to get rid of that, and we're going to do this slightly differently. So we're going to go back into our edit mode, and we're going to press the P button, and we're going to choose by loose parts, and this separates all the things that we had connected together. And we're going to delete that as well as our pipes. Yep. So we deleted our pipes and our grate, so we're left with just the cube basically. We are then, and that's at 3,092. We're then going to grab our decimate again, and this time we're going to try and see if we can't get to 400 without it going absolutely ridiculous. 8, 7, 6, 5, 3, oh, 400, not 300, what? 400, 396. Okay, so 396. So it's not perfect, but it's in a heck of a lot better shape than it was before. And you're very far away from all at this point, and this is more than fine for well, if I apply that, that is more than fine for a LOD 2. The last LOD is 32 triangles, which is pretty much um, impossible. It's basically just enough for you to make the slightest lookable shape. And in this case, we're just going to make a cube. There's no point trying to decimate this to 32 because it'll just look silly. So we're just literally going to Shift A, make ourselves a cube, make this 2.5, and then we're going to, excuse me, we need to assign it a material of body because that's the main material there. And this, make sure it's UV unwrapped, which it already is because it's just a standard cube. And give it the name LOD3 at the end there. So we have all of our LODs there. They all specify what the model calculator has told us. And now there's only one more thing we need, and it is our bounded box or our collision mesh, to put it another way. And they've made it really easy. There's a couple of different ways to do it, but if you're making simple things 9 times out of 10, we're just going to use the V-Rage plugin, and all we're going to do, let's expand it again, is this little bit here, the physics tab. So with our main cube selected, we're going to generate convex hull. You'll see it's created a convex hull here. We're then going to add rigid body, so just click that once, and it adds a rigid body. And that's pretty much it. We're then just going to rename this to cube underscore COLL. If I could do this the right way. Cube underscore COL. Because I can't spell. Okay, so there we have our collision as well. So they are all ready to export inside of our moderator. Before we do that, we need to just make a folder. So we'll grab a random place. So open up Windows, wherever you want to put them. So see, I've got a bunch of stuff in there. And we're just going to create a new folder. We're going to call it cube. And then we're just going to find it in here. And we're just going to call this cube for the name of the items to be exported. And then turn all these on. We can select everything from this right-hand side, so we don't need to bother about the mess there. We're going to select our main cube, and we're just going to hit LOD0, and then LOD1 is LOD1, LOD2 is LOD2, and LOD3 is LOD3. And then our cube underscore collider, we can't use this collision here, it doesn't currently work. We have to use this export collision here. So we have to manually just find it, cube non-fractured, and then we're just going to call this cube underscore COLL and export. So that's almost everything possibly that we need to do in Blender. There's one more thing that we need to do. So if we just move everything, so we've got our standard cube left there. We'll kind of like this. We're going to do Shift A. We're going to create ourselves a camera, and we're just going to move it out probably over here. Would help if that. And then we're going to right click, set active camera. If we go to our view and lock camera to view, it means we can basically move our camera around and get a nice angle. And this is just because we want to make a bit of a thumbnail. So let's get this roughly centered. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then we just need to find on this side our camera settings, which is here. The output thing looks like kind of like a printer. Resolution, we're just going to do 1024 by 1024. And then we're just going to get that nice and big in the square. We'll probably need a light as well. Let's just quickly check. Yeah, we need a light, so let's just unlock that and Shift A, light. Let's just get a sun, and then just get that like over there behind the camera. Something like that. If you ever set like a rig up to do this, you can kind of just point the sun at it, and it kind of gives you an idea of where you just want to drag things to. But, right, set active camera. If we press F12 now, we're getting basically everything else there, because although we've hidden it, it's still there. So I just need to get rid of the things. So let's move all this stuff out of shot. I can't be bothered going in and setting things to invisible. So we have that left, press F12. And we have that there. And then we can just go image, save as, and we just find our pathway again. Cube, and we'll just put it here. So like cube thumb. There we go, save as image. There we go. So now we have everything we need. We won't need to come back to Blender after that. So we can just go into our While SDK, into our assets folder. We're going to create a models folder. Excuse me, and we're going to create a materials folder. In our models folder, we're going to import existing files, and this is where we find our Space Engineers folder, wherever we saved our models to. Cube, there's our thumbnail. So we're going to select everything at the same time, so all our LOD'S, our collider, and also this collider bin file as well. You do need both of them. Naming conventions, just make sure you don't have any spaces in things, because that breaks things. Underscores are fine if you want to segregate things. Now click open, and it'll import all this stuff in, and it'll come up with this here. And assuming everything's gone through right, and it hasn't suddenly decided the LOD should be different than what the calculator says, all you should get is these errors here saying that there's no materials assigned to the slots, and it'll show up as pink, which is the default, there's no material here. So we might as well start doing the materials, which can mostly all be done in here. So body, this is the main color of our key, if you remember. We want Keeners to provide us a massive list of materials. Now some of these are skinned to things, so they can't be used, and some of these are missing. But with our main body, we want to be too colorable with the color gun, so we just set this to painted, and this painted metal colorable is a great texture, and you'll see that it kind of appears there. This can be colored with the color gun, so it can be like red, gray, whatever, and you can dynamically change that in game. Our bow, well, we'll do the bow later. Our grate, we'll do our grate next. So it's a grate. We want it to be metal, so brushed metal is a nice texture that I do like to use, and that kind of puts it to that shiny sort of brushed metal there. Our pipes, let's put it to like let's do the other painted texture, which if you didn't see was painted metal yellow. So those are now yellow pipes there. Yeah. So there's only two textures left. There's this one there, and then there's this one there. Now, for both of these, we're going to make our own texture, so we kind of see how exactly that happens. So we're going to make two different ones. We're going to go into our materials here, and we're going to right-click, create asset, material, and PBR material. So this is like, let's call it steel. Well, like steel, let's call it steel. Okay. So I think we're going to make like a really shiny steel there because it's got an interesting shape. We'll make it kind of reflective. So if you double click this now, you'll see you get like a little testing where you can see your changes to your materials, and you'll also see it has these things here. Now you'll see when you mouse over them, it kind of tells you what it wants. So it wants like a color and metalness, you want normal and roughness, and then it wants AO, emissive, color, mask, and transparency. So you can combine textures and like put them in that. But usually what you're going to do is you're going to create a composite texture. You're going to create 3 of these in total. For the first one, we're just going to call it color. And of course, you'll call it something related to whatever you're doing. But we're going to then go to our preset reference, and it's going to be the color metal texture. So that's the first slot in this. If you remember color metal texture, this is our color metal texture. And you see it gives us a list. RGB, grayscale, that's what it wants. So red, green, and blue for our actual color, and then it wants a grayscale metalness map, and then it wants a alpha mass, so transparency. So for our metalness, if we're doing steel, so let me just put all these constants first, because I'm not dropping any textures into any of these. So metalness, we want it to be 1 because the entire thing is going to be metal. Alpha mass, we just set that to 1 because we want to be able to see our stuff. And then I need to Google real quick. Let's grab this. So what is the RGB of steel represented as 0 to 1? Because this only takes from 0 to 1, so you can't like put it to 2 or anything like that. So if we want to represent a color, we need to have it between 1 and 0. So we're going to have like basic steel, which according to Google is 0.55 red, 0.57 green, and 0.57 blue. And of course, there's a ton of variations, but we're going to go with that. We're then going to go to there, and we're just going to drag that color context onto that there, and we're going to see that that's kind of gone to a sort of a dull sort of silver. Although you can't really tell that's meant to be metal currently, and that's because we're missing any sort of roughness information. So to get that, we're going to, again, create asset, create context, and we're going to just call this one rough. We're just going to call this roughness. And we're going to set the preset reference again to, this is to the normal roughness texture. Now we don't have a normal map. And so we're just going to set this to 1. Doesn't really matter for that. Now, but the main thing is this roughness here. So let me just pop that onto there. So if I set this, you'll see it's changed already. But if I set this roughness to 0, you'll see it goes really, really, really shiny. And if I set this like 0.2, you'll see that it goes like more of a steel that you'd expect. So with it being something like steel, you can just basically Google what is the roughness of steel. So what is the roughness of steel? And obviously it depends on what sort of surface finish you want. So you can have it mirror shiny at like 0. If you're wanting it sort of like real world polished steel, that's usually about 0.05 and above to like 0.15, something like that. And then you can kind of just go, more and more, and mattes finishes and things like that. But we want it. Let's go full mirror at 0, right? Um, it's going to be some kind of cool thing. And then we need one more composite texture for that last slot, which we're just going to call AO. For it's got ambient occlusion stuff in it, and it's just this extensions texture there. Let's switch all these to constants, and just set that to 1, 0 for emissive, 0 for color mask, and 1 for alpha mask there. And let's close that and drag that into the third and final slot, and we have our finished material there. And all we need to do is go to our models, double click our cube model to bring it up and bring this back, and just drag the steel def into the bow right there. And now when we go around there, we'll see that it's shiny. It's the model view isn't the best. The preview window isn't the best to see all the stuff because the sun's like angled high. But you get the idea. And then we just need to do our little lines here. And I'm thinking we might make like a glowy emissive texture or a material even. So I'm going to right click, create assets. We're going to go to material again, but this time we're going to go all the way up here to emissive color material, which we're going to grab, and we'll just call this trench. Excuse me. And you'll see that this creates this here. The color, let's have it like a yellow. Yeah, so like a yellow. You need to turn the alpha up so it actually has stuff. Emissivity, you can choose, but basically I just chuck it to max. There is animation stuff you can do, so you can like make it blink, stuff like that, and change this to color indicator. And this needs to go to that. And there we have a really bright yellow. So we're just going to go to our model, double click that. And again, we're just going to drag our trench into the trench. And now we have a nice yellow glowy thing going all the way around our cube. So that's the asset all done, it's finished, it's textured. We need to now get it into game. And this is, again, it's a pretty easy process. Now that we've done everything else, we're going to right click, excuse me, create prefab, blocks, non-breakable, and structural. So this is the simplest type of block where it's just for decoration. We don't need to worry about anything advanced. I'm just going to click cube, confirm, and this will get these 4 things, and these 2 will always have errors because this one wants you to drag your model file to there, which we can do so. And once we do that, it's going to complain that it's not set to the grid. And to fix it, you just double click on your model and hit snap to grid, and it snaps to grid. And back to our assets folder. This wants us to do some stuff. Now, before we did get our thumbnail, so let's just import our thumbnail. Let's just go up to Cube Thumb and drag that onto there. And it's going to be called Cube. There we go. And what we're going to do is this block kind definition, we're going to set this to armor cube light. Where is it? Armor cube light block kind definition. So that one there. The reason why I'm setting it to that one is because when you first spawn in a new world, you have that selected. If you just press your 1 key, then you just press R to cycle through and find your model there. It's the easiest for testing until you want to flip that to something else. But that's basically ready to test. So we might as well go to project and start game. If you try and start it from Steam or something else, you won't have this loaded in. So start it from there. Excuse me. Have a quick drink while this loads up. Most of the stuff in the editor is, once you kind of get the way around it, it's mostly kind of self-explanatory. The warnings are usually pretty good. Um, Steam will pop up with a thing saying launch game with custom arguments. Just hit continue. That's just saying that you're loading it up with your mod basically. I'll just wait for this to load up. Okay, and then we just hit new game and creative. So with your we're testing out mods. If you're testing things out like collision boxes and things like that, if you make substantial changes, you can break the world. So if you're like doing it on a one that you want to keep going into, or does some kind of display, you might just want to just have a think. If you're going to go and make substantial changes to like the collision box and things like that, just either don't save it or just create a new world. Otherwise, you could end up just breaking your worlds. Oh, excuse me. Okay, so we're here. We just press 1 because that's where the light armor cubes are. Press R, and look, there it is. So let's place a couple of these down. Bop, bop. Nope. Why can't I place it down that way? What's that way? Oh, that's why I can't place it down, because it's literally a great wall. Okay, I forgot about that then. And yeah, okay. So here it is in game. Steel, we can see reflections of things there. Probably looks better and more impressive if it's close to the sun. Let's get one like this maybe. Oh, yeah, I can see a bunch of stuff reflected in there. It's mostly the skybox in black, so it's mostly all it's picking up. Looks pretty good. Getting quite close and have a look-see. That's basically done there. So we've tested our mods working. There's no like weird issues with it. It's all kind of going as expected, and we can make nice little patterns with some of those. Cool. So we can exit this and go back to our SDK. And I've just realised you couldn't see half of my screen there, guys. I do apologise. Yeah, just in case you didn't see that, I just placed a bunch to test them all down. Right. Anyway, we can just exit that now. Let's quit back to this. So now that we've verified that our mod works, we can now basically put it where we want it to. So it's just a decorative block, so we should probably go with the decor stuff. So we need to create some definitions in order to help us do this. Hopefully I'll get it right first time, because I always forget. So UI, categories, and we need a block group definition and a block kind definition. Block group definition, cube, and a block kind definition cube. So let's have a look at these two. So the block group definition is basically telling us what subcategory in. So we want to add our element, and we want to be in the interior subcategory. And block kind, we want to add element, and we want that our block kind that we've just made to be there. Text ID is our cube. If I could type our cube, and then our block kind, add element for the group, and we can just go like the cube, cube with things, And then we go back to this one where we've got our description, and we just need to change the block kind over. We can just drag that onto there. And now if we launch this again, this should come under the detailing tab, and we shouldn't be able to get to it by the light armor tab anymore. So this is just loading up. Just hit new game. And this time I'll move it over so you guys can see the entire screen. Apologies about that. Okay, here we are. So we press 1 and cycle through. There's nothing there, that's good. So we press G to open this, and it should be under decor. And we can see our cube there, and it's there in the interior. Just drag it on, and it's there. Happy days. And that is basically everything. All you need really then is, if I exit that, go back to this main screen. All you literally need is a photo for that. So you could even use your thumbnail if you wanted. Of a cube thumbnail, and then you literally just type a description and hit publish, and it publishes it, and it's pretty automatic. Just keep your this thumbnail below a certain size, and that's basically it. So that is essentially it, and that's the end. All done, finished. Any questions, ask below. I think I covered pretty much everything. I didn't make too many mistakes, although I can't type. But yeah, take care, guys, and have a great rest of your day.